Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's video. I hope you're having a splendid day. My name is Maz, and in today's video, which is the third episode of a new car prep that I'm doing, if you haven't seen the previous two episodes, I'll link them above and you can have a look. In today's video, we will be doing a chemical decontamination and a mechanical decontamination. For those of you who are new to car detailing, etc., these might be some new terminology for you, but simply put, chemical decontamination, as the name says, is that you're chemically decontaminating your paint, meaning removing any contaminants. With mechanical, you're then physically, we will get to it with as an example, clay in this case, you will mechanically work your way over the surface to remove any particular contamination on your paint. But before we get into the details, I just wanted to mention that in today's episode also I will use something called Meguiar's Wash Plus. This is something in between a regular shampoo and a clay, you could say, sort of, because this contains abrasives, not nearly as much as you would have in your clay, but this has abrasives. And the reason why I am using this, we will get to some of the details of this product as well, is because when I got this car, I mentioned to the dealer then I didn't want to have it detailed at all. I don't want it cleaned, more or less, but they have put some sort of a wax or some sort of sealant on the car. I will actually use this product to strip that away. With that said then, so for chemical decontamination, you might have used some sort of wheel cleaners at some point in time, where you see when it reacts to metal particles it turns purple. That is a product which is common amongst all of these, which is thioglycolic acid, and that is reacting to the iron parts you would then have on your wheels from the brake dust, etc. And this is actually, that thioglycolic acid is actually then dissolving the rust. For chemical decontamination for your paint includes that same chemical, and what it does then is it at least loosens up those metal particles you can have on your car. And if you don't own a polishing machine, if you are not familiar with how to polish, etc., I would stop with just the chemical decontamination, because you're not actually then physically touching the paint. You're spraying this on and then you let it dwell and then let it do its work, and then you rinse your car off. And so with mechanical, you're more or less, even though you have done your pre-wash, you have done your 2-bucket method or whatever method you are using, which is familiar to you to clean your car, and after you have done the let's say chemical decontamination, you might still not see that there is dirt left on the car. This is a new car, hopefully we won't have much of that, but if you have driven your car for 1, 2, 3, 4 years and you have done all the steps and want to seal your car, etc. However, if you then own a polishing machine, the next step then after I would recommend to do both then, would be to do the mechanical decontamination. Once you do that, when you have an older car, you will see that there is still a lot of contaminants left on the paint, even though it might look like it's squeaky clean. So what this does is then it's an abrasive material, and it removes anything that's on the surface of the paint, but it will create some marring and also some light scratches. So it would require you to do a polishing step after you have done this part in order to get your paint in great condition. So today's video I will be either using Iron X or Valet Pro's Dragon's Breath. I've been using both before and the Iron X is excellent. I have used the Valet Pro as well before. It works excellent as well. I'll have to see, it's a toss-up which one I will use then. However, with that said, also if you haven't used products like these, I would recommend you, we will actually drive the car outside of the garage because this smells really bad, and if you want to do it inside, do it in a very well ventilated area. Once we have done our chemical decontamination, I will move over to using the Wash Plus. And as I mentioned, then the Wash Plus is a shampoo which Meguiar says is like a one-stop shampoo, so to speak. It has abrasives in it and it also suds, etc., like a regular shampoo. However, what Meguiar wants a user to do, so to speak, is that to apply this product directly to your mitt. First you rinse the car only. It doesn't say you do a pre-wash, it doesn't say wash it thoroughly, degrease it, anything. It just says rinse the car to get any of the heavy contaminants or dirt particles off the paint, and then apply this directly to your mitt, and then work your way across your panels with not with low pressure, so to speak. However, this car I have pre-washed, I have done the 2-bucket method. If I would have not done that part, I would have not done what Meguiar says to do, because even though this product has abrasives in it and it will work like a compound and it would actually compound, but the dirt that would still be on the paint, I believe, would create scratches by itself, so to speak. That's why we usually want to have the car as clean as possible before we touch it with anything. So in that sense, I'm not following Meguiar's directions on how to apply this. However, the reason why I'm using this at all is then this car has some sort of a wax or sealant on it, and if you want to do a full treatment, which is this series is about, is that in one of the later stages I will then do a ceramic coating. I don't want anything left on the paint. I want it as clean as possible, like a blank sheet, you could say. So this product I will try out for the first time in order to see how well it actually strips the wax or sealant, whatever is on this car. So that is the only purpose. I will not use this as my regular shampoo going forward. If it works well with removing any waxes, etc., I will use that for that purpose. Because the reason is, let's say you have coated your car with a nice coating of wax and you want to shampoo your car with this, you would then potentially be removing the protection layer which you have put on your car in the form of wax then. So I will do the Meguiar's Wash Plus after we have done the chemical decontamination. And then for those of you who are not new to the game, you might ask, okay, you're an idiot, why are you using this, and then why are you claying? And one of the reasons why I'm doing this is that I want to try this product out. And also, as I have some sort of OCD, I will I want to feel that I have done whatever I can to have this paint as clean as possible, which is then I will clay the car. I will be using CarPro's clay, and I will use the fine clay most likely, as we won't have that much or anything to remove, or the ultra fine clay. And also then when you are using clays, you want lubrication, because this is very abrasive, and for this purpose I will be using Dodo Juice Born Slippy. It's a cool name. Let's see how it performs. Hopefully it's good then. One thing I also need to mention when we are talking about clays is that there are other products which are similar. Unfortunately, I don't have any of that here, which is a clay mitt or clay towel, and they have the same properties of a clay, but let's say a clay mitt, you put it on your hand similar to what you would do with your microfiber mitt, And one of the benefits compared to the clay is that it will cover a larger area. And also, if God forbid you would drop your mitt on the ground, you can simply wash it and rinse it off. However, if you drop your clay on the ground, you have to throw it away because it's impossible to get the debris out of it. And also, you will use more clay as a consumable compared to the mitt as well. So even though the initial cost of a mitt might be higher, in the long run, it depends on how much you use your clays and mitts, then the clay will be more expensive. In my case, I had the clay home and it's unused, so I will use this first, and then in the future I will go over and try out a clay mitt. And also another thing then with these clays, you should always try to keep them sealed, because they will dry out potentially then. That will not happen with a mitt. So those are some pros and cons between a mitt and clay. So let's take the car outside and begin. I will start off with the chemical decontamination now. So I will spray this onto the car, and we will let it sit for 4 or 5 minutes before we thoroughly wash the car off. We don't want this to dry into the paint. So let's start off with the application. And when this has dwelled for some time, if there are any iron particles on the paint, it will react and become purple, and I can see it has done so right away. I'll show it to you once I have finished off everything. So as you can see, it has reacted quite well with the contamination on the car. Even though this was more or less this is a brand new car, it is a lot of contamination still on the paint, even though I have done a pre-wash, I have done the 2-bucket method, etc. So we got this more or less all over the car. But now let's rinse it off. All right, so we have applied the chemical decontamination part, so we have seen that it has reacted with iron particles that was still left on the paint. That could be from manufacturing, I don't know, from wherever, but as you saw, then it reacted quite well with that, and we have thoroughly rinsed off the car. And while it's wet, we will then go over the paint with the Wash Plus. I don't know if this comes through in the video. As you can see, it has separated quite much. We have the fluid parts on top, and I would guess the more abrasives have gone to the bottom of the bottle. So we'll give it a good shake. I'll use a neutral glove under the microfiber mitt. We will apply this directly to the microfiber mitt, and the mitt I will soak first, then apply this, and then we will work our way through. I don't think this comes through in the video, but we barely have any beading or sheeting of the water. But to be sure, I'll still do this part, and we'll see if there will be any difference at all after applying this then. And this is Meguiar's Wash Plus. So I will apply it as such, and then we will gently work our way over the hood to start off with. We are getting quite well with regards to suds, and also I have to say, from a lubrication point of view, it feels rather good as well. So it's not like it's sticking to the paint, which is good then. So I'll go over half of the hood, and then we rinse the mitt, and we go over the other half. So I forgot that this product is supposed to be applied with a circular motion as you are buffing the paint. So sorry for that. It sits on the back of my head not to do rotational movements, but this is what you would do if you are then buffing your paint. And this would be similar to that. When doing it in this circular motion, I don't know if it's because you have less water now or so, it's a little bit more resistance. Let me just feel. Yeah, if the consistency of it is a bit different compared to regular shampoo. It's thicker in a way, so to speak. But again, I mean, it could be different with a regular shampoo as well, between different shampoos. But this, I can at least feel it was a bit thicker in the consistency. Is consistency even a word? I don't know. Or consistency is a word, but I don't know if it's the right terminology in this aspect. Once you have gone over the whole car with the Wash Plus, it is important to rinse everything thoroughly because this has abrasives and you don't want it in the door jambs or anywhere else, so make sure you rinse it off properly. Now we have done the chemical decontamination and we have done a sort of mechanical decontamination as well. The next step is then to do the real mechanical decontamination, and that is with the clay bar. And I went with CarPro's Ultra Fine because I don't think we need to use anything more abrasive. I was feeling the paint as well. There is no small lumps, etc. on the paint. But in order to know that we have done what we can and to ensure that the paint is fully cleaned, we'll go over it with the ultra fine clay, and then I will be using Dora Juice Born Slippy as a lubricant. So let's try it out and see how it works. Before we start, we want to work the clay. We want to make it as soft as possible and make it like a small pizza shaped form. Or shape, sorry, before we spray the lubrication and gently work our way over the panels. So now we have it in a shape we want, and I will then just spray the lubrication onto the surface. And we'll work our way over the hood. Gently, we don't have to overdo it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are finally ready and finished with this episode. In this episode number 3 then, we did a chemical decontamination of the car. We then used Meguiar's Wash Plus to remove any waxes or sealants that were put there by the dealer. However, I don't know if it came through in the video, we didn't have that much beading or sheeting on the surface anyway. I did see some improvement, meaning we degraded the beading and sheeting, so when I was going to dry the car, there was still a lot of water left on the panel, so that is a good sign, which means we have removed most of what we could with regards to waxes or sealants or whatever that was put on the surface then. We then moved over to claying the car, which is the mechanical decontamination part. And with regards to the Dodo Juice Born Slippy, I don't know if you see how much is left. I didn't feel that this was lubricating that much. I mean, if I, let's say, bad comparison, but let's say if I put Reload or similar on the car, it feels much more slippery than when I worked with this. I had to lay out quite a heavy mist in order not to get stuck with the clay onto the paint, and also then the clay was the ultra fine, so it wasn't that abrasive, so to speak. And also one thing with the Wash Plus, I believe it is a good product to use on your windows and glass or your headlights and so on, because usually you can get a film on your windshield and so on, which can be sometimes a bit difficult to remove. Then I think this type of shampoo is good for that purpose. And as a last step, as you saw, I thoroughly dried the car, so I used my Bruhl's blower to get into all the nooks and crannies and blow out any residue water. Because when we start polishing, the polishing machine, I mean, it vibrates. We don't want water dripping out of any of the panels or rear view mirror, etc. So that part we have done as well. We are ready for episode 4, which is then the polishing step. With that said then, ladies and gentlemen, give me 1 thumbs up, 2 thumbs down, subscribe, and until the next time.